Welcome back to A Little Bit Mental. I'm your host, Betty. Over the last few weeks, we've pulled back the curtain on the psychological architect of coercive control. We've looked at the structure of the invisible cage, and we've unmasked the traps of gaslighting and Darbo. But once a controller has successfully forced you to doubt your own sanity, the controller doesn't remain abstract. It materializes into the tangible, practical structures of your everyday life. It invades your smartphone, your car, your bank account, your pocketbook. We live in a modern culture obsessed with constant connectivity, total transparency, and digital closeness. We track our kids' locations for safety. We share passwords with our partners for convenience. We merge bank accounts to build futures. But where is the exact line between mutual trust and unilateral surveillance? Imagine you're out for a long overdue cup of coffee with a childhood friend that you haven't seen in over a year. You're laughing, you're venting, and for a brief hour you actually feel like yourself again. The heavy fog of your home life lifts, but then your phone screen lights up on the table. A text notification rolls in. Why have you been sitting in that coffee shop for over an hour? You told me you were just running a quick errand. Who are you really meeting? Suddenly your chest tightens. The laughter completely vanishes from your throat. Your hands turn cold. You realize that even though you're miles away, your movements are being tracked, itemized, and evaluated in real time. Today on A Little Bit Mental, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible chains of financial and digital surveillance. We're going to explore the terrifying psychology of the digital dissect and how normal budgeting transitions into financial strangulation, and hand you a blueprint on how to protect yourself and to reclaim your independence. So get grounded, lock down your privacy, and let's get a little bit mental. So before we start, how about you grab a few things? Why don't you sit down, grab a cup of tea, grab your favorite blanket, and grab your journal so you can start writing your thoughts at the end of the session. All these links will be in the description. So let's get started. To truly understand the psychological toll of digital surveillance, we have to look back at a brilliant and terrifying architectural concept that was designed in the late 18th century by the philosopher Jeremy Bentham. It was a model for a perfect prison called the Panopticon. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. But it was a massive circular building where the prison cells were stacked along the outer walls. In the exact center of the courtyard stood a single towering guard tower. The windows of the guard tower were heavily shuttered and mirrored, meaning the prisoners could see the tower, but they could never see inside the tower. They never knew exactly when the guard was looking at them, because a prisoner might be watched at any given fraction of a second. They had to assume that they were being watched at all times. The genius of the prison was that the guards don't have to do any actual work. The prisoners began to police, restrict, and censor their own behavior out of fear. That is exactly what a smartphone or a smart device becomes in a relationship dominated by coercive control. Welcome to the modern, digital panopticon. Surveillance is almost never introduced with an iron fist. A controller doesn't slam a tracker on your car on day one. Instead, it's introduced under the smokescreen of romance, convenience, or deep concern for your safety. It sounds like, let's share our live locations on Find My app or Life 360, just so I know you made it to work safely. If you have absolutely nothing to hide from each other, why should we have private passwords on our phones? Or let's link our smart home cameras to a shared account so we can monitor the house together. It feels like closeness, but over months and years, that shared transparency undergoes a highly calculated shift into structural policing. Suddenly, your live location isn't a safety net. It's a cross-examination tool. If you spend an extra 7 minutes at a gas station, because the line was long, your phone starts ringing. If you download a new app, they demand to know why you need privacy. If you clear your browser history because you're looking up mental health support, they accuse you of hiding an affair. What does this constant invisible eye do to the human brain? It induces a state of chronic, agonizing hypervigilance. You begin to suffer from the panopticon effect. Even when you're completely alone in your car or sitting at a stoplight, your brain is actively anticipating the auditor. You find yourself changing your driving routes, self-censoring the articles you read online, deleting text threads with your own mother, and rushing through conversations with your friends because you know the clock is ticking. You systematically erase your own privacy just to prevent an argument. Privacy is not a sign of guilt. Privacy is a fundamental human right, mandatory for psychological safety. When you are denied a private space for your own thoughts and movements, your identity begins to completely fracture. This surveillance doesn't stop at your digital footprint. It extends directly into your wallet through a devastating tactic known as financial strangulation. We often think of financial abuse in extreme terms. Someone stealing a partner's life savings, freezing corporate accounts, or refusing to let them work entirely. While those things happen, coercive financial control is usually much more subtle, grinding and exhausting. It is the tactical elimination of your economic agency. Let's look at a scenario that happens in kitchens and living rooms across the world every single weekday night. Imagine you've just come home from running. Standard, regular errands. You've gone to the supermarket, picked up some dish soap, stopped at a local drugstore to buy a prescription. You're standing in the kitchen unpacking the plastic bags, putting things away in the cabinets. Your partner walks into the room. They don't greet you. Instead, they walk over to the kitchen counter, pick up the crumpled piece of paper, receipt you left sitting there, and smooth it out on the hard surface. They scan the receipt line by line, item by item. Suddenly, their finger stops. They look at you, their eyes narrowing, their voice dropping into that quiet, chilling, passive-aggressive tone. What is this $4.50 change for a pack of minigum and a magazine? We explicitly talked about our tight budget this month. Maya, why are you spending our money behind my back? Why can't you be trusted? In an emotionally mature, healthy relationship, a minor $4 purchase at a drugstore is entirely invisible. It doesn't trigger a conversation, let alone a crisis. But under the rules of coercive control, that drugstore receipt, it becomes a literal crime scene. You find yourself instantly stammering, your face is flushing red, your heart spiking, as you try to justify why you needed a pack of mints or why you wanted to look at the magazine. You're a grown adult, perhaps someone with an independent career, or someone who works tirelessly managing a household and raising children. Yet you are being forced to defend a $4 purchase like a child who was caught stealing from a jar. That is financial strangulation. The goal here isn't to balance a household budget. The goal is to make the act of spending independent money so incredibly painful, so humiliating, and so high conflict that you eventually just stop doing it altogether. You surrender your economic agency. You stop buying the gum, you stop buying the coffee, you stop treating yourself to anything small, simply because the psychological cost of defending the receipt isn't worth the fight. And when they control every dollar, they control your ability to escape. They know that if they can keep your wallet entirely empty, you can never buy a tank of gas, you can never book a hotel room, and you can never secure a deposit on an apartment on your own. Because digital and financial surveillance are so deeply woven into the fabrics of modern life, it can be incredibly difficult to spot when convenience has officially crossed the line into absolute control. A controller will always claim that they are doing it for the family, for security, or for transparency. I want to take you through an objective, strategic self-audit. I want you to evaluate the digital and economic boundaries of your current life. Ask yourself these 4 direct questions. First, the password audit. If you choose to change the password to your personal email or your smartphone tonight, simply because you wanted to protect your privacy, how would your partner react? Would it be met with respect? Or would it trigger an immediate explosion of rage, accusation, or cheating? Or days of punishing silent treatment? Second one, the receipt hesitation. When you're standing at a retail checkout counter, do you feel a sudden wave of physical anxiety about how the item will look on a shared bank statement? Do you find yourself hiding receipts in your car? Or paying for minor personal items with loose change just to keep the transactions off the digital grid? Number 3, the micro-explanation audit. Do you feel that you're required to provide an unprompted chronological narrative of your exact movements every time you walk through that front door? If you are 10 minutes late arriving home from work, do you automatically feel the need to construct a defense or show proof of traffic to avoid a cross-examination? The 4th, the device dread. When your phone battery dips below 10%, when you are out of the house, do you feel standard annoyance or do you feel a paralyzing wave of physical panic because you know that being unreachable for 20 minutes will be interpreted as a malicious act of defiance? If you answered yes to these questions, please listen. You are not paranoid. You are not doing anything wrong. You are living under a system of total surveillance that is systematically burning out your nervous system. You're an adult, and you have an absolute non-negotiable right to privacy, to independent movements, and to financial choices. Needing a corner of your life that is not tracked, audited, or scrutinized, it does not make you a bad partner. It makes you a sovereign human being. So how do we begin to dismantle the digital panopticon and escape financial strangulation? When dealing with a highly surveillance-heavy controller, you must understand a critical rule of safety. Sudden, radical changes can be dangerous. If you walk into the house tonight and abruptly turn off your location sharing, change all your bank accounts, and lock your phone down completely, you will sound a massive alarm in their system. This can cause an immediate escalation from a controller, forcing them to pivot to direct confrontation. Reclaiming your autonomy from surveillance, it requires a quite strategic step-by-step approach. Here is your operational blueprint for building what we call a secret sovereign fund. Number 1, you must begin auditing your devices when you're physically outside the controlled environment. Do not do this at home. Do it while you're at work at a public library or sitting in a safe parking lot. Audit app permissions. Go into your smartphone settings and look at every single app that has background location access. You will often find ordinary shopping or weather apps have been quietly configured to share location data, some of them strictly to only while using the app. This is what you have to set them to. And disable significant locations. Both Apple and Android devices keep a hidden chronological log of places you visit frequently, including the exact timestamps of when you arrived and left. Go into your privacy and security settings, locate significant locations, and clear the history. Turn it off safely. The private footprint. If you're researching safety resources, housing, or support groups, never, ever use your personal phone or shared home computer. Use an incognito browser on a device the controller cannot access, or secure a low-cost, prepaid burner phone that is hidden completely outside the household, such as in a secure drawer at your workplace or a locker. The secret sovereign fund. To break financial abuse, you must establish an independent cash footprint. A controller can audit a credit card statement line by line, but they cannot track physical cash. The cashback strategy. Every single time you run a routine approved household errand, like buying groceries, picking up prescriptions, or filling up the car with gas, use a debit card and select the cashback option at the register. Take out $10 or $20 at a time. To the controller scanning the banking app later, the transaction simply looks like a standard approved trip to the grocery store. The cash disappears into the bill. Secure the cash. Never keep this cash inside your home. Do not hide it in a sock drawer or a book or a closet. A controller who practices surveillance will eventually search the space. Keep this growing cash entirely outside the environment. Leave it with an uncompromised family friend or a lifelong family friend, a lifelong member of your family, in a secured place at your office, anywhere, but do not leave it at home. The fun isn't just money, it is literally psychological breathing room. It is the cost of a tank of gas, a ticket out of town, or a safe place to sleep for a week, if the environment ever crosses the line from controlling to psychologically and physically dangerous. It is your physical link back to freedom. Privacy, it's not a confession of guilt. Independence, it's not an act of betrayal. You are a sovereign adult, and you are allowed to own your own steps, your own choices, and your own money. So, thank you so much again for tuning in to this episode of A Little Bit Mental. And don't forget to subscribe and share with others. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.